Thank you everyone for studying this evening. So I'm going to introduce the panel and then hand over to Josephina, who is a member of our branch committee and who's going to chair today's session. We're going to try and keep it relatively informal and have as much audience participation as you can stand, essentially. and probably we'll start going until we fall asleep. So on the panel we have Estelle Clark. And do you want to introduce yourself after this?
It's the choice. I introduce myself or you introduce
yourself. I think I'll change the script and then let's get to introduce yourself. That's probably easy.
Okay. I'm Estelle Clark. I'm the Executive Director of Policy for the Chartered Quality Institute, which includes being Head of Profession. And I've been Quality Director in 4 different industries as part of my career, which I guess is how I got to be sitting on this seat.
Hi, I'm Hannah Murphy. I'm Quality Assurance Manager at a company called Team Consulting. I've been in medical devices for my whole career, starting out with in vitro diagnostics, moving into medical software, and now I'm at a medical design and development consultancy. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Next Generation Network, trying to promote quality to the future of the profession, really. So that's me.
So I'm Priyanka. I work for ARM and I'm a senior engineering auditor here. So I've worked in 3 different countries, so within a short span of 8 years. And I'm also a committee member of the Cambridge and Peterborough branch.
Good evening, my name is Natalie Schumacher-Dyer. I'm the Head of Quality for Aspire Defence Services Limited. We provide facilities management services to the Army across Salt Plain and Aldershot. I'm also the Chair of the CQI's Next Generation Network and the Thames Valley branch, which is why I'm here this evening.
Hi, my name is Charlotte Laverty. I work at Crossnet as a Quality and Business Continuity Manager. Before that I worked in a civil engineering company as a Quality Manager there. And I'm also the 2017 Emerging Talent winner of CQI Awards.
Hi, I'm Josephina. I'm also a member of this branch. I do the treasurer role. I work as a clinical audit and effectiveness lead here in Cambridge University Hospitals, managing the clinical audits of this hospital, local and national submission data. I'm keen to this event this evening. So let's get it on. We have some prepared questions, Kevin. So if I don't know how the format that you want, I can read the question loud and see who wants to respond to that one maybe. So the first one is pay equality is in the news with the BBC and the particular scrutiny. The January edition of Quality Wars suggested a gender pay gap in quality professionals over 35. Why do you think this is, and what can businesses do to address this? Volunteer who would like to start?
I'll go first, because the survey was a survey that the Inequality World that was done by the CQI in conjunction with one of our partners, Shirley Parsons Associates. And obviously when you do a survey, you don't know what you're going to find. We asked the pay question, and we had enough respondents to be able to look at pay not only by gender, but also by age, and also by geography. And we found that outside of 24 to 35-year-olds, where the women earned a tiny bit more than the men, then in every other age range, the men earned a lot more than women, and the older you got, the bigger that gap was. I don't think we're surprised in that. I think we probably were pleased that, at least in 24 to 35, the gap, there wasn't a gap. If anything, it was the other way around. And what we're going to do is to repeat that survey every couple of years and hope to see a pull-through so that women's salaries and men's salaries stay the same, or anything there. Why not? I don't know. As you get older. I've been in quality since 1990, and the company I worked for at that time had two pay scales, one for women, one for men. I mean, that was known, and I was grateful to have had a job at all. So, we are still living in a world where a number of us, a number of people have experienced what I experienced, and we haven't got rid of it yet. Obviously, it'd be nice if companies made some effort to do so. But actually, overall, it was a better story than I thought, and obviously we were paid more than, if you looked at the survey details, we were paid more than any of the other sectors that we considered, with the exception of chartered accountants, and they were really miserable. So whereas we were happy and second best paid.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you say there around the under 35 kind of statistics. And when I first kind of came across that, I was really happy. I thought, this is really encouraging. But almost the more I think about it, I worry that that is the sliding slope. That beyond 24 to 35 are the pressures such as childcare and things that start to change that future, which start to widen the gap. And is it just the symptoms of that? So it's great that you're going to repeat the survey, and I truly hope that you do have a matched pairing in the future, but I don't know right now.
And I think that this was, sorry, but this was one of the most interesting things that came out of the survey. And what we'd like to do next time is to make sure that we ask questions that enable us to get under the skin of this a bit more. And I regret to a degree that we didn't ask more of them. But if we get more people responding, we'll be able to cut the data more deeply, and then we'll find out more about it. But if people think it would be useful to do a specific survey on this issue, I'm entirely open to that. So I'm going to take a poll from this room first. We've got research space in the CQI this year, I've got budget, and if this was an issue people would like to understand better, then I'm up for it.
I think, from my perspective, it's really valuable.
Is there any view in the public?
There were lots of nods.
It is a topic which is right at the forefront of almost every business magazine you pick up at the moment. And I think that the time is right to exploit that. It's in people's consciousness, people are thinking about it. And, why not? If there's space in the research programme, then I think it's worthy of just exploring why that gap is the way it is at the moment.
I'd like to know whether there's any geographic difference. Because it may be if some countries have sorted this out, we can look at their regulatory legislative framework and see if there's anything that's different, or just find out what is different. But I haven't got enough data to cut it by, to do that in relation to this question.
I think what would also be interesting to find out is whether the company that the person works for has an equal paternity leave policy in place, because it's all well and good, perhaps starting a family, but if it's the onus is on the woman has to sacrifice everything, then obviously that's going to skew, but it would be good.
And that would be a really good question to ask up front in the wouldn't it?
Yes.
In the context of one, do that. I'll do that. So that's a decision.
We have another question.
Well, it's not so much a question as a complaint. The remote viewers are saying that it's a bit mumbly. So what I want to do to try is to move you all a little bit closer, and I'll move the webcam a bit closer to improve the audio for people who are not here but are listening in remotely. So, fine. Do that so they it'll be tight. Thank you. Let me have a quick look. Yes, you're all in. Thank you for that. Sorry while we're doing these experiments, but we'll eventually become proficient at it. Okay.
I must say the venue is excellent. So thank you for finding it. Really nice. I don't know how easy it was for all of you to access and to create the venue, but I think very keen to continue.
Give it a few examples.
Excellent. Okay, so with this one we're going to move to question number 2. And even with the possibility of parental leave to be taken by either parent, the clear majority is taken by women. Do we need to do more to encourage men to take parental leave, reducing the time women take out of their careers after having children?
Can I take that one? Yeah, okay. So this one is sort of on my radar a little bit at the moment. I think with parental leave, it's not necessarily a case that we need to encourage men to take it more. I think it's that we need to raise awareness that they can take it. Personally, with my husband, this is a conversation that we've had. We had it very early on in our relationship and talked about the fact that, I am the main earner and therefore it makes more sense for me to be the one to go back to work. And he's always been very supportive of that, and I think I'm quite fortunate. But I'm sure, and I think it's becoming apparent that in my sort of age range, that there are a lot of women in a similar position to me, and therefore, actually, it's about making it something that men feel comfortable in doing, and if they want to get involved, then they should be able to. But I think it is about raising that awareness. I don't think it's necessarily something that is fully understood, that they are able to do this. So that might be why more men don't do it. So I think that there is definitely something that we need to do. In terms of sort of women taking time out of their careers, I think you've also got to look at who your employer is. I'm really lucky. I've got a really great supportive company who will support me in whatever it is, and I know that if I go out to have a family, they will support me in going back in the same role and progressing. I don't think it's going to be a limitation, but again, I think this is something that we do need to work with other companies to kind of raise the profile of and say that, you know, women are entitled to come back and to work and still be working mums, as well as having a role as a mother as well.
I think when you said about men not wanting to do it, I think it's sort of an emasculating thing. It's seen as, it's a traditional thing, isn't it, for women to stay at home and to look after children and stuff like that. But like in your sort of any other relationships, if you are the ultimate owner of the relationship, it makes sense for you to go back to work. It's not emasculating in any sort of way.
No, not at all.
I think we still live in an era where men think it is emasculating to stay at home and things like that. I think that needs to change that view on it as well.
To talk about my personal experience, my husband was very keen to take the paternity leave and use a shared parental leave opportunity. But when you consider the salary aspects of it, he was earning more, so it was more, I thought, I can spend that time with my child. At the same time, it would make more sense for a person who's earning more to go back to work than me. So it's more like personal choice based on the circumstances, even if the company or the government support it by bringing up legislation so that you can have shared parental leave, equal, or a man can take more, whatever that be. And to add to that, for me, there is a societal aspect as well. I would feel really bad coming from an Asian country, and the pressure I would have if I had gone back to work, leaving my child alone at home would be quite different. And living here, it really helps me to take up a job that has got responsibilities, and I get that support from my husband. So the family really matters, the support that you get from the family and the society really matters to take that decision.
I can relate with Bianca as well, and how that can be from a different culture, especially for your family, as it's the woman who should be next to the child, and when you decide not to do it, it's the father to do it. How that come across, like I reject that.
I tend to feel that I agree with everything that's been said. I don't have any personal experience. I didn't have to make that choice, but I think that quality role is one that lends itself to part-time working, to many things you can do at home. It's a job where you can be a mile wide and an inch deep in some parts of your career, and you might want to be a mile deep and an inch wide in others. And we want to make it easier for people to be able to move around in different roles in quality, and with the recognition by employers that there are a number of things that women or men could do while they're working at home. You know, customer satisfaction interviews, and a lot of statistical work, there's a lot of research, there's all sorts of things that could be done part-time or in, flexi and from home.
And even though there is a required that you have got the right to apply for flexible working, not every company is very keen on giving that out. It says that you have the right to ask, but
we have the right
to yes, as well. So I personally had gone through that challenge when I was working for a different company. I was quite flexible with everything. I'm very fortunate now to be working here, but I had to go through a very bureaucratic system to get that, and it was quite a big challenge for me to get that. And I know it's not easy for everyone, even though you can do it. It's able you can do it, but not everyone understands that. So it's that education, the support that employers need to give.
And telling stories of people who forge ahead and show the way.
Providing role models and mentors to guide people through that process and bring them back on board. I think, I haven't got personal experience, but where I've heard other people coming back is having that guiding light, someone that, okay, you're moving to part-time, how can that affect you? What does that mean? You're not there all the time, don't worry about it. So having someone to give you a guide can be a really positive step to help women and men return from any kind of leave, I think it's about normalising it for me. It's, making it freedom of choice for whatever that individual or couple want to choose. They shouldn't be restricted by...
And the complexity can be on the restriction as well, how to request that right or how to apply.
It's your understanding of how far you can go, and that's the communication. I didn't know how far I could go with that, but then I pushed and pushed to get that right, and finally it worked. So it's just that perseverance that you need to, and it's not easy when you are asking for these sort of rights to people who are quite above you, and then they kind of push back, saying that no, it's not possible. You need to really understand what the rights are and fight for that.
Any comment from the public? Okay. Don, how is it going on the cloud?
I think, it's better. It's better. But if you speak directly at that webcam, that would be great. And of course, and it may be useful to repeat the question from the front, just in case questions from the back aren't heard by people remotely.
Okay. So with this one, we're going to move to question 3. And this is, why is it so important for aspiring quality professionals to have women role models in senior positions? And A, who are your role models?
I can go for that. So, as I said, I was very fortunate to work in 3 different countries, and I should say this, that I haven't worked with a women leader within quality field throughout my career, 8 years working in different countries. So I can see, I can relate it all to the statistics which I have been looking at. So it seems like, as we discussed earlier, we have equal pay between 24 to 35, but as you go up, it reduces. It could be that there are less women in the leadership role, or the pay is less. I don't know what is the actual, but I have been reading, and then I found out that it's a leaky pipeline. As women progresses, as anyone progresses, it's less and less women entering into the leadership role. So for me, I don't currently have a role model, a women role model within quality whom I can look to. I haven't worked with anyone, but I have a role model which is my husband, who has always pushed me to go to the extra, to take up all my strength and do the best I can. So he is my role model, but I'm really looking forward to find someone within quality who could mentor me. And
I can finally people.
yeah. So I need to find out.
No, I've always worked with all the people above me. Where I've come from originally civil engineering, I've been very male dominated. There was hardly any women working in that company. And then it got to my confidence quite a lot actually. I don't think it was because of, I think if they don't understand as a young woman, it's hard to understand. Obviously because I was very young, I was still a teenager, I started working there, so there were changes and everything like that. Men don't understand that, unfortunately. And then they got I got mentoring, and she was a woman, and that was something that completely changed everything. So she was helping me see it, help become strong, help me become a bit more independent and things like that.
I think it is important. I've also not worked for a woman whilst we worked in quality. I did previously, And I think some of the things that people could do are just so straightforward. So I mean, I know it's a leaky pie, and we know the CQI membership at the early stages of the career is almost 50-50. It's slightly more male, but it's not very different. But as you move up, there are very fewer women. I know one of the companies I worked for recently, in fact, there's someone who still works for that company sitting in the room. So this was Lloyd's Register, and the previous chief executive was sort of not understand why I was making a point about women, and I was the only woman on the executive. And I just said, imagine, if you like, for the whole of your working career, you are never ever able to sit next to anyone of your own sex. Because every meeting you go into, every dinner you go to, the first thing that happens is there another female there. You know that the only thing that's inevitable in that evening is you're not going to be let anywhere near them. Because as if it's something special for you to be able to sit next to a guy. And actually what would be really special for me is to have the opportunity to sit next to a woman. And you just say that, just like the whole of your life, you never sit next to anyone of your own sex. Just think what that's like and what that does, where the conversations you have and the confidence you've got and how, what you want to say to each other. If nothing else, let us be a little bit sort of cliquey, on occasion that you find someone. And I think sometimes it's about trying to reverse what it is that the male experience is, to just think about what it is for the female experience. Even right now, that's exactly how it is. I can't tell you how delightful it is to see so many women sitting here this evening, and how fabulous it is to sit amongst six here. That is almost, I've been working for 45 years. This is the only time this has ever happened to me. When was the only time that men were able to sit with another 5 men? It happens every day.
Well, I think I'm quite fortunate actually. I work for a really strong female leader, and I've also been fortunate enough to work with some fantastic female role models within the CQI. I also have an all-female quality team working for me, so I accept the exception and not the rule. But I'm really proud of that, and I think it is actually just a testament to the fact that there are some really great females who work in this profession, and it's great to see them coming through and getting recognised, and it really being in the forefront of the profession now. So yes, I appreciate I am exceptional, but I am really proud of that.
Just from my perspective, I've only ever worked for small companies, so I've never, not had a female role model. I've not really ever had anyone above me to mentor me in that kind of way. So I've always looked for alternate support mechanisms, so things like the NGN or building. I listened to one speaker who comes from Microsoft, and she said to build a bubble around you, and find those people that you can go to if you need support, and will boost you when you need it. And that would be my advice to anyone in my situation, where if you're in a small company, if you're the only quality person in your company, as I have been several times, use other networks, make the most of them.
I agree with that. That's what I did. Yeah, it really, really helped. Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
Any comment from?
That's fine, because I work for a company where I think nearly all of the divisional quality heads are female. The interesting point is I don't think many of them came up through quality. I think they moved laterally into the function at a very senior level. When I first joined the company, my boss was a vice president based in North America. And she joined the company in that role. She came from retail, I think, into a manufacturing organisation at a very senior level of the function. So I've almost got the opposite to, I think, a lot of the experience that's been shared. There are a lot of senior female role models in my organisation, certainly, but they haven't naturally progressed up through the function.
And we need to tell their story.
It'd be good to meet them.
I'm not sure how many of them are in the UK, but yeah.
Thank you very much. Don, you were saying?
Well, just a comment that I saw on LinkedIn a while ago. Somebody who provides quality training courses is experiencing a 50-50 male-female attendance, but that's not reflected in the current membership of CQI. And the question was posed, where are all the ladies going, having completed the training courses? So Do you have a view? Are they joining the profession at a younger age, and that eventually it will progress through, or what's happening to all the...
40-60. I thought we were 40-60 in CQI men.
Apparently we're 80. Apparently it's 80-20.
I would be surprised at that. I wonder whether that's Erica rather than CQI. I mean, I can go back and check that number. Certainly, I don't relate to the 80-20, and I'm wondering whether that sort of a particular criteria has been applied to that, like auditing.
And do you think, though, that there is a better ratio at the younger 35 age range?
It's pretty much what there is in the intake.
Yeah.
You'll see that, don't you?
Yeah, we do see that.
I think it's also what sector you're in as well.
Yes.
So if you're working in a heavily male-dominated industry, like I was, civil engineering, heavily male-dominated, then I've moved across telecommunications. It's not as male-dominated. It's got a lot more women. There's a lot more women on the auditing team and things like that. The team leaders, men, I think it's 50-50. I don't think there's much difference, but it's the industry as well. If you're working in something which is seen as a man's industry, it shouldn't be. It's bound to be more male-dominated and heavily statistics.
So it's good to introduce the opportunity to mention at the university level. When I first got a taste of total quality management as part of an operations management module on a degree that I did, which started in my kind of interest and then which quickly grew into a passion, and I did a postgrad in it. But there wasn't really any visibility of CQI at that stage, and I think that's something it'd be great if CQI could get a little bit more involved in, because obviously there are all sorts of different types of degrees out there, management degrees, where quality plays a part.
Yes, I agree. Do you want to come on and do perspective?
Yes.
I've got something from CQI.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, and this is something that is on our radar. Whilst we sort of recognise that at this moment in time you can't study sort of a full foundation degree in quality, you can certainly do a master's. As you quite rightly say, there are other opportunities, and we are working as the Next Generation Network to raise the profile for those that are new to quality and for the next generation. So looking at graduates, school leavers, and actually getting it out and about there as something that becomes a first choice for people's career pathways and an ultimate choice for people's career pathways, so that there are several routes in. We recognise, sadly, as a profession, many of us fall into it, and that's what we actually want to stop. We want to actually make it so that people choose this, because it is a great career to have, and it opens so many different opportunities for people, and that is what we are working to promote and get young people interested in. Right. Yes, absolutely agree with you.
No, maybe in a few years we can have PhDs.
You never know.
We're supporting the Next Generation Network, obviously, and work that they're doing. We're also doing some work with the Shirley Parsons Associates, who are the recruitment company I mentioned earlier, who joined with us on the survey we were talking about salaries, and they have a quality recruitment business that's separate from health and safety and environment, which many people may know them for. They're building up to having 10 or 11 full-time recruiters there. They go to all the university job fairs, and they're going to be taking on material there because we don't have enough resources to go to them all, but they're already there. So as a partner, they can be our face. But we are also, we've just released, and it's still piloting, but looking pretty good right now, a product that approves university degrees, either ones that are full-time quality or ones that have got part-time quality components, in order that we can have some say about those that are good versus those that aren't good in our mind, but also to then have a relationship with those universities so that we can be providing them the material and letting them know about membership and trying to encourage people from there on. And then finally, we are doing work with apprenticeship schemes. So the Trailblazer scheme, we've got 4 Lean Six Sigma schemes that are up. We can't yet, there are no training providers yet, but that's something that will be sorted out this year. But you'll be able to do levels 3, 4, 5 and 6 apprenticeships in Lean Six Sigma. And I'm working with the apprenticeship agency right now to create a level 4 scheme in general quality, again to encourage people to be able to have a route into this at an earlier point.
suppose the NGN as well, it's all about promoting all these different choices. You know, myself, I was a scientist and then got into quality, and I would still consider myself a scientist, whereas, you know, there's different routes, and I didn't know about quality when I did my biochemistry degree, but then there's the apprenticeships, and one of the things that the NGN are working on is something called a career tree, so that people considering their career can see all of the different breadth and routes to get here. It's not just you've done a quality degree, therefore you're in. It's not that you are an engineer and then you have to go into chartered engineering before you go into quality. It's to show that breadth and wealth of experience within this profession that I think makes us really unique.
Is this all within the UK that all these awareness programs are being conducted, or
there are some that are UK specific? So Shirley Parsons primarily recruits from the UK, so they primarily go to UK universities. However, the approving university courses is not just UK. The ones we're looking at now extend beyond.
I did my engineering in electronics and communication, and I didn't have a clue that there is a professional route through quality. And it's my first job with a company in India that they started giving general training on CMMI, the software development company, and that's how I got into quality profession. So I didn't have a clue whatever that there is a separate profession or a different route that I can take after I did my engineering. So it's that awareness that I'm just very keen to understand if it's within the UK.
No, it isn't, and indeed we've got 130 training partners, and about 50% of those are non-UK. So there's still half of it is UK based, but then the other half is everywhere else. But the non-UK ones are growing.
Thank you very much. Very interesting topic. So now with this, we're going to move to question number 4. Do you think there is a glass ceiling for women in business? Let's take this one.
As I was saying earlier, I don't think it's a glass ceiling, but it's this leaky pipeline that is not letting till there. And the research supports that the amount of female who just don't pass through that ladder. And as Hannah said earlier, it could be due to one, the parental leave, people are taking time off work to have children or to look after them, and coming back, the opportunities that they get to progress. And also, I think it might be because of it could be that the amount of opportunities that they're getting to progress. It might be the mentality of people. If you're a male, you could see similar potential in a male rather than a female. So the succession path could be an unbiased decision, but that might be one of the reasons. It's just my take on that, and probably people should start thinking about seriously making sure that you're not taking that unconscious bias. I'm just trying to make it a little bit clear. So if I have a male boss, he could potentially see that a man in my same team could be a succession for him, because both of them think in a similar way. Women might be thinking in a different way. So, but I personally think that we need that mix of thinking or attitude within a leadership team to come up with different ideas. Or if you just have men in the leadership team and everyone would be thinking in the same direction, but having someone different could make you think
full of women.
I was telling it could be good to have a good mix there to make you think differently.
I don't know whether I see that it's any different in terms of the ceiling, whether or not it's deliberate or accidental. So, I mean, I know that in my career I've had circumstances where there were rules about where women could get to and the sorts of jobs that women could have and different pay grades, etc. And so there was a glass ceiling there that was well known by everyone in the organisation. And to a degree, looking back on it, despite the fact that I really have to challenge myself in what I'm going to say, but partly, at least you knew where you were. And if nothing else, it was all open, and so you knew you were discriminated about, you knew you were discriminated against, but you knew. Whereas now, it may be that there is the attempt to say there isn't a glass ceiling, but there is still a circumstance where people are making choices about things that they feel comfortable with, the sorts of people they're used to working with, etc. And whether they admit that to themselves or not, whatever it is, there is some sort of ceiling there, but it's not so explicit. And I think that's much harder to fight against. And so, getting towards the end of my career, I don't know that it is any easier now for women in terms of glass ceiling than it was previously, because I just don't think you know what you're fighting.
I think you can take a negative and turn it into a positive. So you can take that challenge. Maybe this is just me personally, but you can take that as a challenge, and I think what that does is it forces you, like just for me personally, to be more creative and innovative to get where I want to go. So I was told once somebody said, no, you go one step higher, and you find alternative routes.
Yes, and that's great for those people who are actually capable of being innovative and being able to find.
Or if you're not happy, it's go and do it for yourself. So I've set up my own business and run my own quality management consultancy, and I run things where I want things to be well. So if you're not happy, have the confidence and to go and do it even better for yourself and those around you.
I would say that I was actually hired in my current role as a quality assurance and regulatory affairs manager because I was a woman. Because the company was very junior, it was quite small, and it was so male dominated. And they said that they were actually preferred to hire a female candidate.
And we have had jobs called into us, and they have specified they want a male or female to join their team. I mean, do you guys, as quality professionals, do you find as a woman to be hired to influence the city to get your message across and to get into it here too?
I think it's all about the right approach. No matter what gender you are or who you are, it's about finding the approach that works for you. And I would call out some of the glass ceiling issues, and not necessarily women's issues, is identifying that there's more than one way to lead a team. It's not all about leading with, dominance and authority. Men sometimes have the same challenge if they have a different leadership approach. So I don't think it's all about women. It's about businesses acknowledging there's more than one way to lead.
And engaging.
And I think the same can be said for age as well, not just gender. As a young quality professional, it's been challenging over the last 10 years. I'm fortunate enough to be in a more senior position now, but earlier in my career, I was certainly challenged when sort of making decisions or giving feedback to senior colleagues. Say, well, you not worked in this for very long, have you? So, I think the same can be said, whether or not you're young, you're old. I think there's plenty of opportunity for discrimination.
Okay, so let's move to question number 5. Does positive discrimination have a role to play changing the makeup of senior management teams?
I'm against positive discrimination. I think it's the wrong practice to consider in any circumstance. So that's just my view, that it sets the wrong precedent. And in my view, I think, I'm not calling out your example by its name, but I think I personally would feel slightly strange in that scenario. I would wonder, was I hired for my skill, or am I hired because of my gender? And I would always question that from my own perspective.
I think I agree with Hannah here. I didn't, when the BTC issue came into the news, I should admit that I was unaware, or I never bothered about this women empowerment or this discrimination which was coming in news or thoughts. I always thought, I was fortunate to work with my male colleagues. I come from a STEM background, and throughout it was all male-dominated industry that I worked in. Personally, I've never felt discriminated for being a female. And then I thought, okay, it's your skills that brings you up, not being a woman or a man. If you are good at something, it would help you prove it. But when I started reading all these things, I was like, oh, really? Does it exist? So I've started reading quite a lot about the research, and I've started questioning myself, does it all existed? And I think it's just, for me personally, awareness. I think that is key, so that I would go that extra step if needed to develop myself, to grab that opportunities. So I think all this communication are good, and it needs to be taken positively, and we should try and work through that extra step too.
Does a female or has to do that extra step? Female or?
No, I didn't mean that. Okay. So rather than talking about positive discrimination, it's just that if you have to develop in your career, you need to put that extra effort, identify what is that you need to focus on, and put that extra effort, and I think it will automatically happen. And also, maybe being a female, I have a baby, and sometimes it could be that I can't be anywhere anytime. Because of that, I might take a step back, thinking, oh, this is not the right time for me to go to the next role because of my family. What is important to me at that stage? So that could also be versus what we are saying, less female roles in the leadership levels. But if you want to get there, it's just a commitment, and I think you would just get there without any discrimination.
I think it is. I think you're right. I think it very much comes down to personal choice. And you know, if you want to fight hard enough for it, then you will. You've got to seize every opportunity that you can possibly get. Lay your hands on, and you know, continue to work hard. And I think the same can be said for men. If you want something badly enough and you want to work your way up the chain, then you will. It is undoubtedly not as easy for women as it is for men, but at the same time, if you want it, you've got to go out and grab it with both hands. So, it is down to that personal individual though, whether or not they want to pursue it, I think.
I've never heard a case ever of someone who's positively discriminated against, ever. So whenever you hear discrimination, you automatically associate it with negative. It's never been a positive. I've never heard of a case anyway, unless anyone else has. I'm wrong, but I've never heard of someone who's discriminated against a good thing. So I'm really against that,
I feel as well that we're all quality professionals, and one of the things we do is root cause analysis. and if you just positively discriminate, you're just putting a plaster on the problem and not getting to the real cause of it. So philosophical question.
Now the next question. How much is the representation of women in quality affected by the industry? Sorry, I'm going to start again. How much is the representation of women in quality affected by the industries quality professionals tend to work in? Example, engineering.
Lucrative. So, telecoms and previously engineering, defence, STEM and this organisation, chemists and scientists. So I'm probably the sort of the girly one amongst us. But I've got a story I think is interesting, and actually a quote from a managing director I worked for, which was one of the biggest gifts that anyone's ever given in my career. And so we're back in the year 2000, and I moved from working for a Japanese IT company that I'd worked with for 26 years, and I took a job with a heavy mechanical engineering company in Paris. A French Swiss company with quite a different culture from Japanese IT. And I got to the second interview, and I could just tell the guy was going to offer me a job like in the next minute. And I thought, oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting it. And I remember saying to him, I haven't come from your industry. I've come from IT. I don't understand engineering. I don't know what large gas turbines do, and I never will. You need to know that before you because I think you just got to offer me a job. And he said, I am. And he said, I know that you don't know that, but you come from a background that was faster moving. It's, our projects take too long, and we need somebody to bring some speed into this, have a better understanding of consumers, because we used to be regulated, and now the that our customers have choices, etc., in deregulated energy industry. And he said something along the lines of, there are 50,000 people in this organisation, 49,999 of them have the same background, they've all got a PhD in mechanical engineering. You think it would help us if the 50,000th one of us had the same background? You've come from somewhere completely different. That's why I'm buying you, because you don't know it. You don't know our industry. You can see where the wallpaper is ugly, and believe me, I would tell him. So it was sort of the benefit is from coming from somewhere different, and the skills in quality enable you to work just about anywhere as long as you understand that your skills are in quality, and that you may want to buddy up with somebody who understands the technology. And this guy finished by saying to me, so I am going to offer you a job. He said, but only on one condition. He said, don't forget, I'm buying you because you taste different. Could you please promise me if you come here that you won't jump into our fat and end up tasting the same as the rest of us? And I remember saying to him, I will do that, and I promise I won't jump into the fat and taste the rest of it. It's a weird conversation. But could you please, sort of like have my back in relation to the first time one of your PhD in mechanical engineering comes up with me, and what the heck does she think she knows? And actually she knows something that's different than the others do. So that wasn't quite as easy as it sounded, but I firmly believe that, and that women in this career can go anywhere, and men in this career can go anywhere. And the more places you go, the better you get.
The variety, that's the best thing about being in quality. You get to meet different people, go around the world, understand different industries, and the skills that you gain are quite transferable. It's the principles, that's the core.
And the recruitment, that's working with Shirley Parsons, lovely that you're here, they make a point of challenging if any of the hiring organisations say, we're in dog food, and unless we've got somebody who's been 10 years in dog food, then they're really not going to understand what it is that we do. And they fight that, and that they are using the CQI competency framework to say, this is what these people can do. You've already got technical people in your organisation who can provide the rest of it. And so we're fighting that, I think, together.
I know from working with Shirley Parsons that when they were finding out the different jobs and stuff, it's always, this is a job and this is a different job, and it's completely, wasn't it, a completely different range of all these different jobs that are getting offered and after stage interviews and things like that. And it's just really good being in the profession as a woman or as a man, where you can. I've been from a civil engineering company to a telecommunication company. I don't know any other profession in the world where you can do that. No other profession, I don't think.
Okay, thank you very much. Question number 8. Do you think the CQI has a role in encouraging women to join the quality professionals?
Yes.
I think we briefly covered it before, saying next gen network and activities.
But I think the CQI has a role to play in encouraging anyone to join the profession and values what they are doing and are there for. So, yeah, I think regardless of gender, but certainly by doing events like this and raising the profile of women in quality, it's a really good thing. And that's what the CQI, I'm sure, will take away from this evening, and we want to do more. So it's a good thing.
And I'm going local now to my branch and community colleagues. So it's really nice to see how diverse the attendance is today in male and female representation. But this is not the trend normally that we see in our events. And I wonder what else we can do to have a more female representation in our events as well locally. Maybe on your feedback, in the feedback sheet that you have there, if there is anything, members of this branch, female size as well, any comments that you can add that will make you attend future events and maybe give you another reasons to come as well.
It's a challenge, isn't it? Go and head of branch, and we just have a couple of meetings a year. But I'd say I've only had about 1 or 2 women attend, and probably been, I don't know, 8 meetings that I've had.
It's the same
So
everywhere.
it is a challenge, and I'm not quite sure what the answer is, to be honest. I know that you're looking for feedback on it, but I'm not really sure we can. But I think it's about making it as I guess, engaging as possible, you know, to want to go to that event, to learn more about the profession, and looking at different elements that affect a quality manager's role, whether it's social media. So last time we had a speaker looking at the part that social media plays with products in terms of customer satisfaction, things like that. So we had a lady who used to run like Christmas campaigns at John Lewis, and how they use feedback via social media to update their products. So, for example, she mentioned that there was a saucepan and they had quite a few complaints that the handle was too long. And very quickly they took on board that feedback and took it back to manufacturers. The manufacturers came back, produced it with a sharp handle, and then the sales rocketed. And then they could demonstrate the ROI, the return on investment, from listening to clients. But it's hints and tips like that I think that, I guess it's applicable to men and women, obviously. But again, it's just about making them more engaging, really.
So we have done a few webinars, or we have some people connected through the internet. What is the representation, the female representation there? Because people you joined us online.
Okay, I have a question from Ian here. He says, it's great to hear the varied experiences of the panel. If each could change one thing, what would it be?
Anything. That is a difficult one.
This has changed something about the world as opposed to doing something different in one's own life.
I suspect he means something about the quality working environment in which you find yourselves in. What would you like to change? Each of you, what would you like to change? That's my interpretation of his question.
I personally think it's embedding a quality culture. Rather than, I don't think there's anything to agenda, I think it's more the old-fashioned way of seeing quality. It's a tick box exercise, we're doing it to get a certificate, that's why we're doing it. I think it's changing from that mindset to actually, it's not really quality management, it's business management, it's looking at your business as a whole, it's there to help you. And I think it's trying to get that message across to leadership and big people in the company that that's what it's there to do. It's not there to be a hindrance, it's there to help you. So
our CEO said to me that he has never seen a successful company that didn't work for quality management. He said it's just absolutely integral.
Yeah. And some companies do it without realising they're doing it, if that makes sense. And I think it's not necessarily well, my old company, it wasn't something I came up against. They saw it as a hindrance, it was effort, it was signing things off. So I think it's just, simply that, it's not that, that's what I'd like to change, it's the way people view quality.
Yes, people's perception of quality as a help rather than a hindrance.
Yeah, as a hindrance, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I do tend to agree. I do think, though, that the 9001 leadership clause has gone some way to helping us address that, because I think it is putting more onus on the top management of the organisation to actually back and support, which is a good thing. I think for me, my ongoing campaign in my role with the NGO is just to make quality a profession that everybody needs to be part of. I agree it does need to be something that is part of the culture of an organisation, but much wider than that, people need to understand. I was having a conversation with my goddaughter. My best friend, who is the mother of my goddaughter, was trying to explain to her what it is that I do for a living. But she struggled to do, and I think that's the thing. And as quality professionals, we need to learn to be able to articulate what it is that we do, and to be able to share that with others around us. We do spend a lot of time talking to other quality professionals, which is great, but I do think we also need to get out there and actually share that message with others so that they understand what we do, and then that will also go some way to actually making it part of the culture of an organisation and day-to-day business, really. So that's what I'd like to change.
I agree with both of you too. What I think is, even if you have that leadership commitment and that empower quality within an organisation as quality professional, we need to make people aware that we're not doing it just for getting a certification, a standard certification, but it does add value. Being very curious about what they do, finding positives and the differences about what they do, could all add to the benefit of the organization. And as quality people, we need to think about that and make sure that we add value rather than add bureaucracy.
Yeah. Not just there when it goes wrong.
Yeah. Always look for details and then find out if there are differences. It's not about saying that it's against the standard. You need to change how you do it, but challenge them to think, oh, could you do it any better? That would help you rather than saying it's in the standard, so do it. That's the way you have to trigger that part.
I think for me it's continuing on the kind of value chain. It's not just about making it a value to the internal organisation, it's making quality a marketable asset for me, that it's, if you have somebody that is out there, maybe as part of a standards technical committee or something like that becomes intrinsically valuable to an organisation. And I think that does two things for me. It one gives extra promotion, extra value to that company, but as an individual it does give these opportunities to interact and fosters the quality professional in a different light, moving away from some of its historical clipboard compliance kind of analogies to someone who's really driving the organisation to the future. So yeah, that would be my one wish, that more companies use quality as a marketing asset. It shouldn't just be a certificate hidden away on your website. It should be more than that, in my opinion.
This is going to be a variation on the theme here, because I've been so much the same, and I like and agree with everything that all my colleagues have said. So I'm in this because I want organisations to work. I'd like the work to work. I'd like that to be for organisations I'm part of, but I'd like it to be there for schools that my friends' kids are at. I'd like it when I put my mum into hospital. I'd like to know that the work works. I'd like the society to understand what it is that a quality business management system offers, and all the skills that tools that go along with that, including the fabulous job that quality professionals do. And like Stuart, it's a disappointment sometimes when the only opportunities we get to comment are in relation to Kobe Steel, Two Sisters Foods, Carillion, Oxfam, this week Institute of Directors, Amy, and all the other industrial failings that we see. The CQI next year is 100 years old, and people are saying, what is it that you're going to do to honour the fact that it's 100 years old? Along with quite a lot of, please don't tell us about 100 years of what you've been doing, because that's going to be really, really tedious. But what we are going to do is we're going to tell a story about things that went right, about things that you couldn't do in 1919 that you can do in 2019, about the differences in terms of how you transport, the differences in medical, the differences in telephony, the differences in food and pharma, the differences in fashion, the differences in digital, all the things that you couldn't do in 1919 that you can do in 2019 that benefit the world. And we are going to ascribe all of those to a quality approach. The PR agency has already said, well, you didn't really have much to do with all of that, did you? No, I'm not saying we did. We're not saying this is 100 years of the CQI. We're saying this is 100 years of the CQI being around. It's a story of 100 years of quality. And if things have got better, it's because the quality approach was applied. And if things didn't work, it's because people didn't apply a quality approach. I mean, frankly, no matter how you feel about whether or not that's fair to ascribe all of that, you can't argue that point. If it went well and it was able to be replicated and happened over a long period of time, it's because people used an approach that is all of the tools that we use. So we're going to say that next year. The world is as it is and as good as it is because of these tools, these techniques, and the people who help organisations deploy them. And that's our people, that's us. And to try and change that narrative from the, I can't explain what it is that I do to my mother, or to any of my friends, to just say, think about something that works. One of us will behind that. That's what it is.
Thank you very much. It's like a new round of applause.
10
maybe,
yeah.
Do you have any advice to women quality professionals? Any further advice?
I would just reinforce that if you don't have a support network in your company, find one, find a good one that you can share the good with the bad, and take up the challenges and go for it.
No, absolutely. I think, the fact is, you've just got to seize every opportunity that you're given and grasp it with both hands and get out there and have a go. The fact that you wear high heels and you get to wear makeup every day is a bonus. Come on, guys, you don't get to do that necessarily. The fact is, just make the most of it and enjoy it. It doesn't matter whether you're a male or a female. You've just got to take every opportunity and have a go, really.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So this is the last of our prepared questions for the evening, and I think with this we're going to do a closure. Do we have any room for a question from the public? Is there anything on?
Well, I just prompted them for a final question. So, stand by. I'll let you know if anything comes in. But I'm sure they've enjoyed all that the panel has said. So.
Well, thank you very much. It's been it's been an inspiring professional. I've got a lot of tips.
Yeah, I've got to find a role model.
I just had a quick question. I really enjoyed everything that you all said, so thank you very much. In terms of setting up a network or setting up role models, do you think that, maybe going forward, that CQI could get involved in actually setting that up, so that we can actually sort of see, faces, we can see email, people that we can contact who've got questions, how to, advance our careers, what sort of training you'd like to do, so that there are women, that are being put there on your site that we can approach and that can speak.
Yeah, so without thinking too deeply about that, I'm sure we can.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think that was something that would be useful, what I do know is that coming up from the surveys, I wasn't surprised, but I'm still shocked, and we know that it's not okay. So we are looking for things to do to give support to women. So if people here are thinking that's useful, then I will take that back. And, in fact, if you give me your name before I leave, then I'll check in with you about how that might work. But I'll also to friends here about how we might make that happen. But I'm sure we can.
Just going back to getting young people into the profession, you mentioned about universities earlier. Does the CQI have a list of the university courses if male or female would be interested in taking their career to the next level? Because obviously I know there are certain degrees and postgraduate degrees associated with quality management, which I also think where, I guess, making it more transparent, where there are quality management modules as part of the business degree as well.
We are just trying to get that together. So we've been trolling around trying to get insight from anyone we think might have some. So if anyone here knows of any, then please let me know, and I'll just check it up against our list, because we're pretty certain now that, at least as far as the UK is concerned, we know all the degrees that have this as the main focus. It's, as you say, it's about finding one of those other courses that have it as a part of what they do, but not the totality of what they do. But we're looking at this not only from trying to contact universities direct, but we have a relationship with, as an example, the Engineering Council. The Engineering Council are the people who specify the competencies for all of the engineering institutes. And by having a relationship with them, we can make sure that their expression of quality that they put into the IMechE or all the varieties of engineers is the same expression and is one that harmonises with our view, as opposed to writing something that's completely different, with different language and different, just generally different attributes. It would mean that we're in a different conversation. So we're trying to not only find courses at the end, but also to work with professional institutes
to make sure that those courses, as they get set up, if there's anything to do with quality, then it would be much easier for them to take something from us than to write it from scratch.
Yeah, and that would be brilliant for potential students, but also for employers to be able to access those links. So if I'm looking to recruit, graduates, I'm going to Cranfield to recruit graduates, for example, on sustainability management, which on the standards that we implement. But there's very little, I guess, access to information concerning quality management. There's higher level qualifications that. So it's about making those links, isn't it, between the students, the professional bodies, and academic facilities plus the employers.
Yes. And it's something that we are working on, but it is still quite new, so we don't have that complete as yet, but it's something we started.
I think there's an interest out there, though. I mean, to pick up on your point about why wouldn't you want to do it, I've recruited undergraduate industrial placements for the last 3 or 4 years, and from the number of applicants that we get, there's a very small number that are actually doing a degree with a quality module in it. The vast majority that we're getting coming for interview are those that know something about it and have their interest piqued.
Yes.
And for the last 2 years, we've offered the role to undergraduates studying for a maths degree. And this year, I've just offered it to somebody studying a finance degree. There's no quality module in there, but they've said they know it's important. So there must be some message that's getting out in some universities, I'm not saying at all, but in some universities around some courses that says this is something you probably ought to take a look at as a profession.
Yeah, and it's easy for employers to recruit individuals on sustainability because they're environmental degrees. It's very clear. Same on health and safety, risk management. It's very clear. And so we've worked with universities to sponsor research projects around that, so energy management in data centres, for example. And it'd be brilliant to be able to have access to quality faculties, academics.
Yes,
across the UK for organisations to work with to then support students, and then hopefully offer positions.
Yes, and obviously, as I said, we are with a light touch approving degrees at various levels, and once that happens, then we will publicise that and be marketing with universities.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm just going to stop up here and there is just one last question.
Yes. A final question. A final question, perhaps a tricky one, from Ian. How can we get more women on the board of the CQI in influencing future direction? I'm not sure if he's looking for volunteers.
A previous slide. I think, I believe we have 8 trustees right at the moment, of whom 3 are women. So that's not far off of equal. There will be elections for more trustees this year, so what we need to do is to get women onto that long list so that we can get women onto the short list. But I don't think that the CQI trustee board or the CQI membership council is particularly underrepresented in relation to women. And certainly compared with other organisations, I personally would aspire to getting more women in some other places rather than CQI particularly being a concern. But it's just my view.
Thank you very much. So I think this is the end of the event now. Thank you very much for attending. I'm going to pass now the microphone.
Yes, I'd like to obviously give the vote of thanks. Very, very interesting debate from my point of view. And normally I sort of do a summary of sort of the main component points that we've discussed. But after I've made a comment, I will just go on to some key themes that I think that come out of tonight's debate. And first and foremost, I think a lot of what we were discussing centred around really the topic of education and the purpose of education across the board. Because you mentioned there, Natalie, at one point, the challenges that you faced within the working environment, discussing quality with your senior management team. if I was to stand here and say I had those same challenges around about 25, 26 years ago, then I think obviously it shows that there is room for improvement in terms of the education aspect. Picking up on the opening point, of course, you mentioned the issue of the 24 to 35-year-olds, and various discussions ensued concerning pay and parity. Again, I think the key to come out of that is there needs to be that better understanding and awareness of that gender pay gap, and indeed by demographic region. So I mentioned the education aspect that I felt was a key point. I also, within the gender pay gap there, will mention awareness. We've gone on to discuss commitment and indeed the mentoring aspect to hopefully get the next generation of networks, involved in quality and the quality journey, and indeed to understand more about what we look to do as a profession. But there was one or two key quotes that I thought are pretty prevalent to what we've discussed tonight. It was mentioned, tell the female story. For women in quality, can only add my opinion, I agree that would be an absolute must. Hannah also mentioned build the bubble around you. And a moment or two ago, Estelle mentioned the work works. I think that's three types of feedback that we can take tonight and actually try and reinforce that message within our own workplace. I think also from listening with interest, there is a key role for the CQI partners to play within this, and I include the likes of Shirley Parsons Associates and others, and that is to make sure that those who are at the university understand the options that are open and available to them and what a career in quality actually entails. And for me, the point I would also make regarding paternity, I think is a valid one. And I would also say that whilst I have no personal experience of that, it was interesting to hear you say, Priyanka, that when this was a discussion point, it actually comes down to the basis of sort of salary, your working role, your function, and what you would or wouldn't be doing on a day-to-day basis, and how that would fit in with your personal circumstances. So all in all, I think it was very encouraging, and I think there is a role for us to take away here, certainly in terms of future CQI surveys, in order to drive and move quality forward. Okay, thank you very much.
Untangled one. Okay, there we go. That's yours.
That's your offer, that one you've got.
Yes.
Now,
Is that right? No, by the way.
oh, that's me.
I think it might be the same actually. I think you're right. Charlotte.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very on Priyanka.
Thank you very much.
And at this point, you can choose to go to more comfortable seats if you'd like. Dominic's going to close the meeting for everyone.
I won't stand in front of you. I'll broadcast from here, and I'll be talking at that thing over there so that the remote viewers can hear me. So first of all, thank you all for attending. It's excellent. It's very nice to see a very different ratio of males to females. So it's very encouraging. I hope you take this out into your working environment and encourage more ladies to get into the quality profession. A thank you to Kevin for organising the event and to Arm for providing the facility. And of course a thank you to the panel. Josephina, Estelle, Hannah, Priyanka, Natalie, Charlotte. Just that was for the camera. So, before you go, make sure you're all registered at the event and that you put your branch there. Remember to complete feedback forms. Hopefully you've got them now, so yeah, please complete them. We do like to get some feedback from you. There will be a Survey Monkey thing sent out. You can do that as well if you want, but that's optional for those who've done it on the night. I would like some feedback from the remote attendees. So this use of social media is improving, but we need some feedback to get better. Priyanka will be working on some certificates soon, so stand by for some certificates. For those in the Greater Peterborough and Cambridge branch, remember the 11th of April, cyber security at the Marriott Hotel. Final thing, before you go, remember to hand your badge in and have a safe journey home. Thank you.